In today's Leeds news, update on pursuit of Barcelona teen, Christian Pulisic advised to join Leeds, 49ers takeover update with new details emerging. Hey folks, Jay here at The View on Friday, end of the week, 3rd of March, and a little bit of news floating around. Again, not massive stuff, but there's a quite a large update on what's going on behind the scenes with the 49er Enterprises takeover of Leeds. So we're going to update you on that as well. And we will start off with the news this morning that Leeds are very aware of the situation of Barcelona teen Ilias Akhomach. Akhomach is being watched by Leeds and by Seville currently. The 18-year-old is out of contract at the end of the season, and Leeds will be in a position to move for the player. We did report this last week that he was on Leeds' radar, and he is a player Leeds are seriously considering bringing in to the youth setup more than likely at 18 years of age, but he is described as being a talent. It also claims that Leeds are very aware of developments taking place around Akhomach and Barcelona. He's already rejected a renewal from the club. A failure from Barcelona to tie him down would leave the door open for contract talks between Leeds, Seville and Barcelona. So still a lot of uncertainty around Barcelona's financial situation, being knocked out of the Champions League and Europa League this season. They are still top of La Liga at the moment, small margin over Real Madrid. If that stays the way it is, they could be okay financially, but it is rumored that Barcelona may have to sell some players at the end of the season again to balance the books. Rafinha is also a player being mentioned in that list as well. Moving on to rumor mill territory, that's getting to pinch of salt territory, and hearing from a man that we don't like to hear from mostly, Christian Pulisic has been advised by former US NMT player Alexi Lalas, the guy who talks an awful lot of nonsense on a regular occasion. Lalas has basically said that Pulisic should consider a move to Leeds in the summer. Pulisic has only played, handing out 8 starts this season for Chelsea in all competitions. He's missed the last 7 games with a small knee injury. What Lalas has said is this is familiar. This is a step down within the EPL. I can argue in different ways, but when it comes to Leeds, we know that this is a team that will struggle, and it's a team that needs something. He went on to pretty much say that someone like Pulisic coming in would give Leeds what they're lacking in terms of pushing up the table. I don't like the way he says Leeds will struggle. I don't think we've struggled deliberately. I think we just struggled because of ownership issues and signing and management decisions. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Pulisic is another a US national team player. However, he's a player that is of incredibly high stock, had a fantastic time at Dortmund. And I think he'd be a player that would add a huge amount to Leeds if he was to come in. There's a lot of quality there as well. But again, as we keep saying, this would all be dependent on Leeds still being in the Premier League at the end of the season. That's the number one thing. Let's get on to the main story. That's pretty much it for today. San Francisco 49ers or 49er Enterprises takeover. Phil Hay has had some updates on what's going on there. Before we get into that, it's important to frame this in the right way. For those who don't know how 49ers Enterprises operates, a lot of people will say that it's not the 49ers buying Leeds, it's 49ers Enterprises. 49ers Enterprises own the San Francisco 49ers. So what happens with the enterprise is this. When they look at buying an investment, they set up a pool for investors to commit money to. And that group of pool, or that pool of people, will then be the ones that the 49ers front to take over. And they're the ones that move forward and buy that asset. So what's happening here is the 49ers Enterprises takeover of Leeds is doing something similar. They create this investment pool for outside investors to get involved in. It's fronted by the 49ers, and they go ahead and try and push the takeover through. So the detail around this particular consortium that's involved in this pool under 49ers Enterprises has started to come out. And Phil has updated us on this. And basically what he said is it's 10 individual parties in the US that are funneling money into this pool. Phil has basically said, our understanding from speaking to people involved is that the consortium is put together, includes 10 different parties, each ready to commit between roughly £20 million and £70 million into the initial buyout. So what that means is you've got some bigger investors and some smaller investors, all part of this group. Phil went on to say that it's no secret that Pete Lowy is one of the individuals, and according to their information given to them last month, there is a US political figure with ties to Washington in the background. Phil went on to say that at least one of the parties is an investment firm, but that the name above the door would read 49ers Enterprises. So it's a bit more detail coming through of what's actually going to be involved in the takeover or the group themselves. Pete Lowy is an incredibly wealthy man. The 49ers and the York family themselves incredibly wealthy people. And then you're looking at investment firms coming in who have a lot of money, but they'd obviously be looking for return on investment. So there's a lot of incentive there for this buyout to be a success and for Leeds to be a success as a result of it. What also came out on this as well is that the buyout of Leeds is not dependent on Leeds remaining in the Premier League. Basically, that suggests that if Leeds do get relegated to the Championship, the buyout will still take place. That's not going to be scuppered by a relegation. All it means is they would renegotiate the cost. Leeds are worth between 400 and 500 million pounds in the Premier League value. If Leeds were to drop into the Championship, obviously they don't have that EPL value anymore. So therefore, the 400 or 300, 400, 500 million potential fee would obviously then be renegotiated to a valuation that would fit a Championship buyout. So there's a lot of small bits in the background there going on, but yeah, it's an interesting one. It does look like quite a wealthy group of people, which is positive if Leeds can stay up. And I think you're looking at a serious investment coming into the summer then as well. So fingers crossed on that. I think it's incredibly positive from the outset. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I don't think I am in this situation. I think it would be okay. Just a quick update then on injury stuff before we wrap up. Max Wober, it's looking more and more likely that Wober was just rested during the week for the cup game and should be in contention. He is playing through the shoulder injury. People who watched the game last week would have seen him at several points during the game kind of rub or grab his shoulder or stretch it out. So he is dealing with that as well. But fingers crossed that he is okay. He's a massive player for Leeds and hugely important, and especially in keeping clean sheets, which you've only got one of in recent times. So it'd be nice to keep that one going. That's pretty much it for today, folks. The Brian McDermott video will be dropping at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. There is a placeholder on the channel right now scheduled for premiere. That will come down, and I'll put a new one up tonight because that one is the shorter version of the interview. It's going up in its entirety, so it's 45 minutes. In the interview, we talked around him getting into coaching. We talked around what the situation was around taking over Leeds, working under GFH Capital and what that was like. Then the instance around the January deadline day when Massimo Cellino took over and he was fired and then subsequently rehired by Leeds and then fired again. That whole situation and what was going on in the background and where Brian was at that himself. And we talked about his scouting at Arsenal, players that he's brought through there, and looking at the Leeds young crop coming through at the moment as well. And then we talked a bit about mental health in sport and mental health in football and how important it is to keep an eye on that for men to talk to each other a little bit more than we do. That's all in the interview. It'll be dropping tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. So you can check that out if you want to. That's going to be it for me for today, folks. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you back here for the news on Monday. And the video for Brian McDermott will drop tomorrow morning. Have a great weekend. Fingers crossed for 3 points, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.